Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, October 20th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Penn State game is tomorrow, the game against Michigan in 36 days. On yesterday's show, we talked to our buddy Ross Fulton all about the Ohio State offense and what we learned from the Purdue game, what it might mean moving forward for Penn State. And now today, we're going to be looking at the Ohio State defense. Some common themes there, some generally positive news overall. That's undoubtedly welcome for Buckeye fans this time of year. And on yesterday's show, we talked about someone who seems like it might be a little bit of a breakout possibility in Dallin Hayden. Now we're going to start, Ross, on the defensive side of the ball with someone else who seems like he might be taking on a bigger role than expected for the Buckeyes right now. First play we're talking about Cody Simon, and it feels like he is taking on a much bigger role in that Ohio State linebacker room than you might have thought just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think I tweeted during the game that I felt like Simon had taken over the position, which maybe is jumping the gun a bit, but he seems to be taking increasing snaps away from Steele Chambers. And, I doubt it ever fully happens that Steele Chambers isn't playing. I do think Chambers is probably a little bit better against the pass than Cody Simon is, but I do think that Simon definitely adds something as a run defender from that position, particularly in filling holes. And, this play is a good example. Jim Knowles is funny after the last couple of weeks of talking about how he's, toned down, bringing pressure, really amped it up this game. There's a lot of blitzing. And this is one example of it. It looks like this is a double A gap linebacker hot blitz. So you're playing three deep and kind of a two underneath it with eyes. And he uses a couple times on first and 10 to defend the run. But again, I think this is just a good example. So even putting aside, they continue to expand the package, and we're going to talk about another example of that next, but more and more volume in what they're doing coverage wise and scheme wise. I think there's multiple examples of Simon coming downhill and filling a hole. So to the extent, we talked about last week, there was concern about linebackers filling. Simon definitely brings that element to his game in terms of being able to take on a block and make a play against the run in the hole.
All right, so the last play we looked at, that was Cody Simon kind of helping make the play, and then Tyleik Williams kind of got the glory on that one, got to stand up and dance a little bit. Next one, this is a Tyleik Williams play. He had a real nice game against Purdue on Saturday. It feels like you're finally seeing what Ohio State fans have been waiting to see. 91 has in fact been freed, and it is paying off real well for Ohio State right now. Run us through this next one, Ross.
Yeah, I guess the benefit of it, I guess it's probably self-evident that if you're playing very good defense, you're going to have some very good players. And it would be hard for me to pick between, JT Tuimoloau, Denzel Burke, both Latham Ransom and Josh Proctor playing really well. Tommy Eichenberg, obviously, but Tyleik Williams has been very good. And he is a load for teams to deal with inside, both against the run and the pass. And obviously, he had a couple of these bat downs, and he was close to a couple more in terms of, in addition to other times where he just flat made the play. They do have times. We're going to talk about how they sometimes are playing light in the box to defend the pass, and there are times where they that's gotten them occasionally against the run, but there's other times where Williams and Hall just control the line of scrimmage and they're able to get away with it because their defensive tackles are making plays. But this is also interesting schematically. So again, talking about expanding the package. So here, Ohio State runs a 2 deep, 4 under zone blitz. So they're bringing 5. They're going to play a cover 2 behind it with just 4 defenders. So again, you're also seeing the continued evolution of the scheme. It was not like Maryland where they mix up coverages a ton. They played a lot more cover 1 as a percentage of what they were doing against Purdue. But you still saw, we talked about hot. We talked about this cover 2. You saw still some cover 2, just regular cover 2, some cover 3. So a little bit of brackets. So again, they are a much more varied defense this year, which is I think certainly helping them keep opposing quarterbacks off balance and helping their then pressure get home and make an impact.
Well, here's coming up next is another play where pressure got home, and this time it was not JT Tuimoloau or Tyleik Williams or Denzel Burke or Tommy Eichenberg. It was Jack Sawyer. And this is one that I think a lot of Ohio State fans have going, when is it going to be Jack Sawyer's turn? And then it was. What happened here that helped him get home on this one?
Yeah, again, so another example of what they were doing this game, which is a lot of pressure. So this is a 6-man cover one blitz. So they're bringing both linebackers. You saw them again. They bring Latham Ransom, particularly when Purdue got inside the red zone. Jim Knowles loves using the boundary safety blitz with Ransom filling against the run. But hey, to Sawyer, and I thought JT's credit too. They seemed. Maybe they were given a little bit more freedom in terms of the pass rush, in terms of like a two-way go or ability to, make moves on the opposing tackle. Cause you see a little bit more of that. And, it's sort of one of those things. I think once you start making a play, it sort of, runs downhill and guys start getting a little bit more comfortable and a little looser. And, I think the defense is feeding off the energy as well. Like you can see the confidence, like even, as we'll talk about, even when a team makes a drive, like last year, it was like as soon as the team got inside the 10-yard line, they were going to score a touchdown. Like Ohio State's red zone defense is really poor. And like this year, obviously, like the goal line stand at the end of the first half is a great example. But like repeatedly, they do, like even if they give up a few first downs, they're not giving up explosive plays, and then they're making it difficult to score points.
Well, earlier you mentioned, that they were kind of playing down a body at times, and this is part of the 2-minute drill that led up to that goal line stand. We'll get to that in a minute, but first, what do you mean when you're talking about them playing down a body or being a little light?
Yeah, so when you just don't have enough defenders to play the run, right? So this happened a couple of times to them on this drive, and so part of me including this point is like it shouldn't be a cause for concern. Like Purdue did have a couple of chunk run plays. They usually happened in this sort of situation where, so Purdue here kind of caught them. They run outside zone, a split outside zone to their trip side, and Ohio State is rotating down to like a cover one opposite it. And so there's just no safety available on that side. So you've got, your interior 6 that are accounting for a gap, but there's no edge defender because they're lacking a force player, and that opens up some opportunities. And that happened a couple times where they would rotate. I mean, I think Purdue was getting them somewhat with the split zone action and cover one, and like that'll be something to watch. And going forward, particularly, I'm sure Penn State will be taking notes and trying to do so. I doubt Ohio State plays quite as much cover one consistently against Penn State as they did against Purdue, but like nonetheless, like in terms of like trying to catch your rotation the opposite way, Purdue had a couple of nice ones of those. But again, so you're just, it's not a matter of getting gash or like guys getting control of the line of scrimmage. You're just, you don't have a force defender available.
All right, and so you mentioned split zone and Purdue having success with that, and so if you run split zone at the 1, you figure how hard can it be to pick up 1 yard? Ross, come on, it's 1 yard. I can stretch my arms that far, but my hands would be out of the frame, so I'm not going to do it right now. But this is a play that I guess going into the half, the game was more or less out of hand. It was 20-0 or whatever it was at halftime. And so it doesn't really matter, but also it kind of matters. This is one of these sort of point of pride things, I think. Buckeyes get a really nice goal line stand against Purdue. Ball at the 1, Purdue somehow ends up not scoring with a little help from the special teams. But what did Ohio State do to hold strong in this goal line stand?
Yeah, and again, I mean, I think as I referenced earlier, like I do think this shows like sort of where the psychological energy and mindset of the Ohio State defense is right now in terms of their confidence. And like they're sort of, even when their backs up against the wall, they're still making plays. But like also like this kind of further emphasizes my point that like, Purdue hit a couple of like 20-yard runs. It was largely a numbers issue. Like when Ohio State wants to play the run, like they can play the run. This is really well done. So like, we talked before about how you have to fall back as linebackers at the second level against split zone. And so you see that executed really well here between Tommy Eichenberg and Josh Proctor, essentially acting as a Sam linebacker and Cody Simon as well. And so they see the block, they fall back, and Eichenberg meets the running back in the hole. And so again, like it makes sense, I think, like from a bigger picture perspective, that Ohio State is at times going with the light box because both of their safeties, and really all three, I mean, if you want to include Sonny Styles as well, are big guys that are very comfortable coming downhill against the run. And so I think you have that sort of in your back pocket, and you know that they can do that from depth too. And so, better to make sure you're not giving up explosive plays in the back end. But this is sort of an example of when they do equate numbers, and this is I think why they're being pretty effective as a short yardage and goal line defense right now. Whether it be the fourth down stops we've talked about in previous weeks or here, they can, between the defensive tackles and the second level, they can definitely, make it difficult for an offense when they want to.
All right. Well, that covers the defensive side of the ball. We talked about the offense yesterday. We're going to be talking more about the Penn State side of things moving forward. I have a little bonus show for you with Ross coming up, of course, at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle and, of course, at BuckeyeHuddle.com as well. That's where you can talk to Ross. You can talk to our other X's and O's experts there on the Huddle board that is members only. So if you want to be a part of that, you got to sign up at BuckeyeHuddle.com. This seems like a real good time to do that because, boy, it is going to be an eventful next month or so for the Ohio State football team heading into the Penn State game, the Wisconsin game, and then November. You know who's coming at the end of November. That's all coming up in very, very soon. We are getting pretty close to the end of the college football season already, somehow halfway through the regular season. I don't know how that's possible, but a great place to celebrate the second half of the regular season with us and possibly beyond. There will be a postseason of some sort. Ohio State is bowl eligible. We'll see where they end up going, but you can be a part of all of it there at BuckeyeHuddle.com and, of course, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.